Q Review Print Speaking to the Blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Herald Scotland Podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @CuandReview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com. That is INFORMATION@CuandReview.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 1st of May 2024. From the news section. BAE Systems in Glasgow shut down in Israel arms protest. This article was written by Gabriel McKay and read by me, Corey. Activists have once again blockaded the BAE Systems factory in Glasgow as they protest the ties between the UK and Israeli arms industries and call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The plant in Govan is producing Type 26 frigate ships for the Royal Navy, which will be fitted with armour developed by Israel after construction. The company itself is the UK's leading military manufacturer and makes 15% of the components for the F-35 stealth bombers. Israel has taken delivery of 39 of the jets and ordered 75, with the aircraft deployed in the ongoing offensive on the Gaza Strip. Since the commencement of hostilities, more than 30,000 people have been killed in the occupied territory, with ceasefire talks ongoing. There have been calls for the UK government to halt the sale of arms to Israel, particularly in light of the ongoing case at the International Court of Justice, where the country has been accused by South Africa of genocide. The ICJ issued 6 provisional measures in the case, including that Israel must take all measures to prevent acts which could be considered genocidal, ensure its military does not commit genocidal acts, prevent and punish any public comments that could be considered incitement to commit genocide, take measures to ensure humanitarian access, and prevent any destruction of evidence that could be used in a genocide case. On May Day, which is traditionally a holiday for workers and trade unionists, groups across the UK are blockading arms factories, including the BAE plant in Govan. Jamie, 32, who works at a Scottish university, said, "Even though the First Minister has said he supports an arms embargo, Scotland is still part of the chain of killing. With Scottish arms companies having over 1,000 secret talks with Westminster since 2012, we need action. That's why we are doing the embargo ourselves, bringing Scottish solidarity to the people of Palestine who have suffered unaccountable horrors and humiliation in 75 years of occupation." Justine, 39, an education worker and trade unionist from Glasgow, said, "We've seen workers across the UK, particularly in solidarity actions with Palestine, including donating money, time and resources, building relationships and taking direct action. On this May Day, we are thinking particularly of our fellow workers in Palestine, whose lives are maimed by the occupation and the current genocide. Shutting down arms factories for even a day of business doesn't just show our disgust. It damages the profits of bosses and shareholders while the workers still get a full day's pay." Ali, 25, a junior doctor, said, "Targeting the arms trade in the UK has already been effective. Protests and direct action against Israeli weapons company Elbit Systems in England has forced it to close and sell its factory in Staffordshire. We are here to make sure there's no business as usual for those who sell arms to genocidal regimes." A Police Scotland spokesperson said, Around 4:55 a.m. on Wednesday the 1st of May 2024, police were called to a report of a demonstration outside the grounds of a business premises on Govan Road, Govan, Glasgow. Officers remain at the scene. The action was coordinated with protests across the UK, including in London at the offices of the Business and Trade Department and BAE factories in Glasgow, South Wales and Lanarkshire. Organisers said more than 1,000 workers and trade unionists across the country had taken part. 3 arrests were made at the demonstration in England's capital. A Metropolitan Police statement said, "We are policing a protest in Admiralty Place and Horse Guards Parade. Officers have made 3 arrests after protesters blocked access to a building. Protesters must stay within the law." That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Gabriel McKay, and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland on Wednesday the 1st of May 2024. From the news section. Wishaw Cambusnethan Street crash with 12-year-old girl was hit and run. An article written by Jodie Harrison and read by me, Corey. A 12-year-old girl is recovering facial injuries after being knocked down by a car in a hit-and-run incident. Police have appealed for witnesses after the girl was struck by a vehicle in Wishaw on Friday the 19th of April. The crash happened at around 4:30 p.m. on Cambusnethan Street, near the roundabout with Kirk Road. The girl was struck by a silver 3-door Vauxhall Corsa hatchback, which failed to stop at the scene. The girl was taken to Wishaw General Hospital, where she received treatment for her injuries. Officers have been carrying out extensive inquiries into this incident, but have been unable to identify the vehicle or driver involved. Constable Paul Taylorson said, "We are appealing for anyone who may have witnessed this collision and is yet to speak to officers to please get in touch. In particular, we would ask people with private CCTV or dashcam footage of the surrounding area on the afternoon of Friday the 19th of April to check in case they have captured a silver Vauxhall Corsa. Anyone with information is asked to contact Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 2562 of Friday 19th of April 2024. Again, if you have any information or CCTV or dashcam footage, please contact Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 2562 of Friday the 19th of April 2024. That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was from the news section. It was written by Jodie Harrison, and it was read by me, Corey.
This is from the Herald Scotland of Wednesday, the 1st of May 2024, from the Voices section. Royal Bank of Scotland and its sad, sad tale of hopes dashed. This article is by Ian McConnell. As NatWest Chief Executive Paul Thwaite on Friday highlighted progress in returning the bank to full private ownership, it was impossible not to reflect once again on the institution's journey in the last quarter century. From a Scottish perspective, such reflection does not engender any happiness at all. Rewind 25 years to spring 1999, and the hostile bid battle that ensued later that year between Bank of Scotland and the Royal Bank of Scotland for NatWest would have been inconceivable in no small part because the London-based institution was so much larger. However, at that point, Bank of Scotland's initial bid for NatWest, which took the city and observers entirely by surprise when it was revealed in September 1999, was just months away, and it did not take long for Royal Bank to wade in with its rival offer. It quickly became clear, after the initial surprise, that NatWest would eventually succumb. There was essentially nothing wrong with it as a bank, but it was viewed as inefficient by the city in terms of its cost-income ratio and so forth. Royal Bank prevailed in the hotly contested battle, winning NatWest in early 2000. And a smooth integration of NatWest under Royal Bank Sir George Mathewson and Fred Goodwin proved that, at least on this occasion, you could successfully pull off a hostile bid in the sector. Conventional wisdom until that point was that a hostile bid for a bank was highly risky because of the importance of having full access to the target's books to know exactly what you were buying. Much later, the 2007 deal by Royal Bank and consortium partners Fortis and Banco Santander to buy Dutch bank ABN AMRO after the Scottish institution and its allies won a bid battle with Barclays, suggested the conventional wisdom on hostile bank takeovers existed for a very good reason. In the period between early 2000 and the ABN AMRO deal, and perhaps even for a bit longer, given things did not start to come properly unstuck for Royal Bank until well into 2008, there was understandably considerable excitement and enthusiasm about Scotland being home to an institution with real global clout. Even before the NatWest deal, of course, Royal Bank had a successful business in the United States in the form of Citizens. And in 2005, it unveiled a significant but cautious move to gain access to and learn about the Chinese market through a tie-up with Bank of China. It seemed for much of the first decade of the new millennium that the long-standing fear that Scotland's two big publicly quoted clearing banks would ultimately, through sector consolidation, lose their independence, and Edinburgh head offices, might have been misplaced. This worry had been very much to the fore during the 1990s. The situation of Bank of Scotland seemed less clear-cut than that of Royal Bank. In 2001, Bank of Scotland merged with the larger Halifax, a deal revealed exclusively by the Herald at the time. The enlarged group, HBOS, did seem to be run largely from Edinburgh in the wake of this deal, but Royal Bank appeared more firmly based in the Scottish capital. The good times were not to last, however. Amid the global financial crisis, which got underway in earnest in autumn 2008, the much higher hopes that prevailed during the early years of the millennium about Scotland having major thriving banks based here for decades to come began to fade fast. HBOS was swiftly swallowed up by sector stablemate Lloyds Banking Group in a rescue takeover deal that the then Labour government seemed, for very good reason, to be relieved to see done. However, this meant Scotland, at a stroke, lost a major bank head office. What has transpired with Royal Bank, which was bailed out to the tune of tens of billions of pounds amid the global financial crisis, was probably much more difficult to predict at that time. Looking back on it, with the benefit of hindsight, it was perhaps always inevitable that the bank would, under UK government ownership, not be based in Scotland for that much longer. The drift to control from London happened quietly, but most surely over time. Even before Alison Rose became chief executive in late 2019, with a contract that said she would be based in London, the southward shift was becoming ever clearer. That said, the fact that her contract clarified beyond doubt that the chief executive of what was at that stage still known as Royal Bank of Scotland at group level would not be based in Scotland was most definitely a defining moment. Dame Alison, as she is now, had joined NatWest as a graduate trainee and was working at the bank at the time of the hostile takeover by Royal Bank. In 2020, under Dame Alison, the name of the bank was changed at parent company level from Royal Bank of Scotland to NatWest Group. And that seemed like another very, very big moment in the history of Royal Bank of Scotland. From a Scottish perspective, it was undoubtedly another most lamentable development. The Royal Bank of Scotland name continues to exist, of course, essentially as a trading name for NatWest north of the border. The number of branches bearing this Royal Bank branding has, of course, reduced dramatically as all the big banks have continued full tilt with drastic closure programs. Only last month, it was announced that 18 of Royal Bank's remaining 86 branches would be closing. For his part, Mr. Thwaite, who succeeded Dame Alison on an interim basis when she exited the top job last year and was confirmed as permanent chief executive in February, seemed upbeat on Friday as he presented a 1.3 billion operating profit for NatWest Group for the first quarter of 2024. He hailed the results as strong, and he declared, "We are also pleased with the recent momentum in the reduction of HM Treasury's stake in the bank. Returning NatWest Group to private ownership is a shared ambition, and we believe it is in the best interests of both the bank and all our shareholders." The UK government stake has gone from 82% in the aftermath of the bailout to slightly less than 28%. Some of the coverage on NatWest's planned share offer to the public looked back to the Thatcher privatisation spree and the Tell Sid message of the British gas privatisation adverts. Mr. Thwaite quipped with reference to his relative youthfulness that he only vaguely remembered the Tell Sid campaign. He seems like a personable enough chap, as well as a solid leader at NatWest, and it is no bad thing to have some humour from chief executives. However, from the perspective of corporate Scotland and the nation's economy, reflecting on what has transpired at Royal Bank of Scotland in the last quarter century brings no cheer at all. That article was by Ian McConnell. This is from the Herald Scotland of Wednesday, the 1st of May 2024, from the business section. Peel Port's Greenock Ocean Terminal's bumper cruise season. This article is by Ian McConnell. A major Scottish cruise port is gearing up for a bumper season, and early bookings for 2025 signal it could achieve a fresh record next year. Peel Ports Group said that its Greenock Ocean Terminal and the River Clyde will welcome 79 cruise liners, carrying up to 115,000 passengers throughout 2024. It noted that early bookings for 2025 are already heading towards a new record for the port. Peel Ports Group said, the cruise numbers for 2024 build upon the success of 2023, which saw the terminal's busiest year since records began, with the terminal welcoming 91 vessels. It added, located on the Firth of Clyde, the west-facing freight port has been at the heart of Scotland's shipping industry since 1876, with its container terminal officially opening in 1969. The cruise port welcomed its first big vessel of the season on Friday, with the Regal Princess, which has a capacity of 3,560 passengers visiting the town. Peel Ports Group flagged the recent launch of a £20 million visitor centre in Greenock Ocean Terminal. It said vessels arriving at the port across the year will weigh a combined 500,000 tonnes and collectively span more than 16,000 metres. The level of anticipated visit shows the state-of-the-art visitor centre is already providing a return on investment. Launched in August last year, it has led to the creation of more than 70 jobs. Jim McSporran, Port Director at Peel Ports Clyde Port, said, "We're looking forward to another busy cruise season at Greenock Ocean Terminal, the first since our new visitor centre was launched. The impressive centre is not only a superb facility for cruise passengers, but it also enhances our ability to attract these fantastic vessels to Inverclyde from all over the world, which has a positive impact on local businesses and Scotland's broader economy." Among the cruise ships arriving at Greenock Ocean Terminal this year will be Cunard's major new vessel, Queen Anne. This 322-metre ship will arrive in Greenock on June the 1st during its maiden voyage. Other major liners set to visit the terminal include the Regal Princess, Disney Dream, and Celebrity Apex. Stephen McCabe, leader of Inverclyde Council, said, "Inverclyde's cruise tourism sector has gone from strength to strength in recent years, and we're delighted it's going to be another busy year at Greenock Ocean Terminal with some really impressive liners arriving." That article was by Ian McConnell. This is from the Herald Scotland of Wednesday the 1st of May 2024 from the business section. Supermarket Lidl reveals Glasgow-Edinburgh Scottish plans. This article is by Ian McConnell. Discounter Lidl yesterday revealed its wish list of locations for potential new stores in Scotland, as it announced plans to open hundreds of new outlets and create thousands of jobs across the UK. The potential locations include Clarkston and Newton Mearns on the south side of Glasgow. Lidl also flagged the possibility of new stores in Cathcart, Drumchapel, Ibrox, Springburn and Merchant City in Glasgow. The supermarket group is also weighing a raft of potential new locations in Edinburgh, including the city centre, Morningside, Murrayfield, Portobello, Collinton or Curry, and Barnton or Davidson Mains. South Ayr, Paisley, Dunfermline and Largs are also flagged as potential locations. Lidl also notes the possibility of acquiring a site in Giffnock on Glasgow's south side for a store relocation. Richard Taylor, Lidl GB Chief Development Officer, said, "Having fortified our infrastructure with significant investments like Luton, which is the largest warehouse in the Lidl world, we are proud to have achieved record market share this month. We have also been the fastest growing bricks and mortar supermarket for the past 7 months in a row. With an exceptional store network and our laser focus on operational excellence, we are welcoming more customers through our doors than ever before, which positions us perfectly for continued expansion." He added, "As we celebrate our 30th year, our commitment to ensuring that all households across the country have access to high-quality produce at affordable prices is stronger than ever. We are planning to open hundreds of new Lidl stores, but ultimately see no ceiling on our ambition or growth potential. This is why we are continuing to invest in new locations whilst exploring innovative routes to expansion. As we look ahead, we are excited to welcome even more new shoppers to our existing stores, as well as those we're planning to open across the country in the coming months and years." Lidl said it is specifically looking for sites in prominent locations with easy access and strong pedestrian or traffic flow, with 1.5 plus acres for a standalone store and up to 4 acres for mixed-use schemes. It added, sites should allow for unit sizes between 18,000 and 26,500 square feet and over 100 dedicated car parking spaces, and Lidl's flexible approach means it will consider freehold, leasehold or long leasehold opportunities. That article was by Ian McConnell.
This letter is from the Herald on Monday, the 2nd of May 2024. It is from the Voices section and the headline is A Record to be Proud of by Andy Stenton. I admit I find John Swinney a bit boring, but agree with those who say he's a safe pair of hands. If it's a choice between him and Kate Forbes as the next First Minister of Scotland, then there should be only one winner. And please don't trot out that SNP continuity line again. Former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and soon-to-be former FM Humza Yousaf promoted equality for all, prioritised tackling the poverty issue and affordable housing, and ensured the NHS was as healthy as it could be under extremely difficult circumstances. They stood for ideals and values most Scots, I would hope, agree with. Miss Forbes, meanwhile, has some issues. She's against same-sex marriage, not so keen on single mums, and is happy for protests outside abortion clinics. I'm sorry to see Mr. Yousaf go. He was honest, decent, reliable, and a breath of fresh air. The achievements of the Scottish Government, despite the restrictions placed on it by Westminster, should be applauded, not continually condemned by the media. Andy Stenton, Glasgow. This letter is from a selection in the Herald on Thursday the 2nd of May 2024. It is in the Voices section and the headline is SNP's big problem is it won't accept the world has left it behind by Peter A. Russell. It is quite clear the SNP establishment is hell-bent on the goal of installing a continuity candidate. Step forward once more, John Swinney, to stop Kate Forbes getting the top job. The reasons for this are generally phrased in terms of her personal and religious morality, but to the outsider it seems there are other reasons. Above all, Miss Forbes is not the continuity candidate, and what the SNP grandees and their lackeys most fear is a radical re-examination of the party's entire project. This is obviously an existential threat to their most deeply held beliefs, above all that independence is, according to the ridiculous Humza Yousaf, frustratingly close, and all that is needed is one more heave, and suddenly the scales will fall from the benighted eyes of those horrid Yuns, and all will be well, and Scotland will become Denmark with mountains. The truth is that the Salmon-Sturgeon-Yousaf model is outdated and unrealistic, and that there is no prospect of a new independence referendum until at least 2039. Any honest new leader of the SNP will start from that reality and build towards a new paradigm, rather than stewing the juice of the defeats of the past. This is the fear of the outgoing SNP hierarchy as they desperately cling on to the wreckage of the Sturgeon years, denying that the world is leaving them behind. It is no wonder that they are terrified of moving on, and that Kate Forbes might be honest enough to demand that they do so. Peter A. Russell, Glasgow. This letter is from the Herald on Thursday the 2nd of May 2024. It is from the Voices section and the headline is Wolf Pack Mentality by Susan Martin. Note that letters criticising Humza Yousaf on April 30th are all from male correspondents who have called him hapless, useless, and describe him as having a woeful lack of focus, and how the job as First Minister was beyond his capabilities. No wonder men have mental health problems, as the wolf pack attacks from ill-conceived ideas of leadership. The 2 letters of support and regret at his departure came from women. They pointed out his achievements while in office and, more importantly, his character traits as decent, kind, caring, principled. I would add brave, as he stood alone as a leader in the UK in calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. No one is perfect, but we need to value good qualities in our leaders. As the song says, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Susan Martin, Glasgow.
The Herald, Friday the 3rd of May, from the news section. 7 things we learned about the state of Scotland's colleges. As our special series on the state of Scotland's colleges draws to a close, education writers James McInerney and Garrett Stell reflect on the main lessons they have learned about the sector. People don't know enough about the college sector. Colleges are absolutely vital to Scotland, educating hundreds of thousands of people each year and making an absolutely enormous contribution to the economy. There are campuses in every corner of the country and partnerships between the sector and schools, universities, businesses and more. And yet, most people don't really know much about colleges, how they work, who they serve and what kind of state they are currently in. Colleges are in serious financial trouble. To start our special, we revealed the true scale of the funding crisis facing the college sector, where cuts to funding levels have combined with sky-high inflation to produce a budget gap of nearly 500 million over 3 years. That represents a clear and undeniable difference between the funding colleges have received and the cash they would actually need to continue doing the job. We ask of them. Indeed, the minister responsible for the sector even admitted to the existence of this gap when challenged in Parliament, but continues to insist that the government will not provide more money for the sector. Industrial disputes won't end soon. With colleges so far in the red, is it really any wonder that the industrial action we've seen rumble on and on for years shows no sign of stopping? This week, the EIS FELA Lecturers Union announced the next stage in their campaign for an improved pay offer. There will be no strikes for a fortnight from May the 6th as a show of goodwill and to afford an opportunity for continuing discussion in an attempt to reach a resolution. But if no deal has been done by the end of that window, all colleges will be hit with 9 days of strike action over the following 3 weeks. Colleges are crucial to our net zero ambitions. The only road to net zero Scotland runs directly through the college sector. It's that simple. Without colleges, a just transition to a green economy or meaningful progress in reducing our carbon emissions are impossible. Colleges are where the workers of the future we hope to enjoy will come from, but only if we invest properly in the present. Although innovative projects are aiming to make the difference, employers and economists warn that Scotland, facing a major skills gap as things stand, is not being tackled with anything like enough urgency. Partnerships within college regions could help alleviate funding pressures. During our series, we came to understand much more about how colleges are structured and how they interact with each other. Some of Scotland's 13 college regions consist of multiple colleges, and even some across different regions are either nearby or share common threads. A closer look at the UHI partnership showed how collaboration between colleges, whether that's partnering for virtual or off-campus curriculum offerings, or straight sharing of resources and equipment, is one possible solution for helping colleges survive the funding crisis. This weekend we'll look at another example from the US of how colleges are sharing costs by partnering to offer expensive, resource-heavy courses without duplicating across campuses. Everyone now seems to agree the government must step in. When the current industrial dispute kicked off, unions and employers were pointing fingers at each other. Now they're both pointing squarely at the Scottish Government. In fact, pretty much everyone we spoke to who wasn't working for the Scottish Government told us that the only way forward was for ministers to step in and, crucially, properly fund the national bargaining system that they imposed on the sector. Colleges change lives and are too important to fail. No matter where we looked in the college sector, we found people whose lives had been or are being utterly transformed. For many of them, this success has come after being let down, often repeatedly over the course of their lives. Colleges do so much, but at the heart of their mission is the person who just needs a bit of help, a slightly different route, or a second chance in order to realise their ambitions. That was an article by James McEnany and Garrett Stell. The Herald, Friday the 3rd of May, from the news section. Labour loses Oldham Council as Gaza backlash bites. Labour lost control of Oldham Council in England's local elections, with its national campaign coordinator admitting that the party's stance on Gaza had been a factor. Independent candidates, several of whom explicitly campaigned in support of Palestine, gained 5 seats on Thursday night, pushing the council into no overall control. Labour's national campaign coordinator, Pat McFadden, acknowledged the crisis in Gaza had been a factor in some places, saying that with so many innocent people being killed, I'm not surprised people have strong feelings about that. But he added that very local factors had also played a role in Oldham, while council leader Arooj Shah blamed 13 years of austerity and a divisive, toxic politics in the town that predated the latest outbreak of conflict in Gaza. Asked whether the loss was linked to Sir Keir Starmer's position on the conflict, Ms Shah told the BBC, "I don't think that's a fair statement to make, given that the issue of Gaza has been over the last year, but what we've seen in Oldham is a lot longer than that. We have had 13 years of austerity, and that's been really, really difficult." Speaking in Blackpool, Sir Keir told the BBC he was concerned wherever we lose votes, and it intended to win them back, but added Labour was picking up seats across the country where it needed to. Labour's majority on Oldham Council, which it has controlled since 2011, had already been whittled down to just one ahead of Thursday's elections, thanks to 2 defections last month. Councillors Naila Ibrahim and Akhtar Shob left the party to sit as independents, reportedly citing Labour's response to Gaza, with Councillor Ibrahim re-elected on Thursday. Former Conservative Naveed Chauhan was also among the independents elected on Thursday, having left his party over Gaza alongside former Tory councillors Abdul Wahid and Mohammed Arfan. Labour remains the largest party on Oldham Council, with 27 out of 60 seats, while the number of independent councillors has risen to 16. There are also 9 Liberal Democrats and 8 Conservatives, meaning a coalition of opposition parties could topple the Labour administration. Not all the independents elected on Thursday campaigned on Gaza, with representatives or former representatives of hyper-local parties elected in 2 wards. But Gaza has become a fraught issue for the Labour Party, with multiple defections since last October, including the loss of 11 councillors in Burnley in November. Former Labour MP George Galloway has also sought to capitalise on the Gaza issue, winning the Rochdale by-election in February and saying he will challenge Labour with a series of pro-Palestinian candidates at the general election. Nationally, Labour has enjoyed a positive series of results from the Thursday vote, winning the Blackpool South by-election with a swing away from the Tories of 26.33%, and so far gaining 58 seats and 3 councils in the local authority elections. With 35 councils out of 107 having declared their results so far, the Conservatives have lost 96 seats, just less than half the number they were defending on those councils, while the Lib Dems and Greens have also made gains. Chris Hopkins, Political Research Director at pollster Savanta, said Labour has had a strong set of local elections so far, but warned it could lose further seats over Gaza, with councils such as Burnley and Bradford still to declare. But he added the swing away from Labour in those areas doesn't look large enough at this stage to affect them at a general election. That was an article by Gabriel Mackay. The Herald, Friday the 3rd of May, from the news section. Retailers ask for support from new First Minister after a weak April. Retail footfall in Scotland dropped again in April, with a decline felt across all retail destinations apart from Edinburgh, which put in a positive performance, according to the Scottish Retail Consortium, SRC. The industry's body's SRC Sensormatic IQ data, covering the 4 weeks from March the 31st to April the 27th, showed that footfall decreased by 3.6% in April, year on year, down from minus 0.9% in March, although is better than the UK average decrease of 7.2% year on year. For March and April together, total Scottish footfall decreased by 2.2% year on year, with traffic through shopping centres down by 4.7% in April year on year, 3.5% points worse than March. However, the capital bucked the trend, seeing its footfall increased by 2.3% year on year, while Glasgow slumped by 5.7%. SRC Director David Lonsdale alluded to a tricky time for many stores, with business rates bills landing firmly on doorsteps, saying 4,500 Scottish shops have just seen an extra 31 million added to their annual rates bills. A cause for concern given the weakness in revenues from shoppers. At the same time, the regulatory burden facing retailers continues to swell, and grocers are facing the threat of business rate surtax to help plug a gap in the devolved government's finances. Mr Lonsdale said that while visits to Scottish stores fell for a 7th consecutive month in April, the dip was more pronounced than in March, due to Easter falling early this year, which brought forward foot traffic to shops. The decline was felt across all retail destinations, albeit Edinburgh still turned in a positive performance, he noted. In a plea to the next resident of Bute House, he said, hopefully the next First Minister will prioritise economic growth and bring a more coherent approach to revitalising our high streets and retail destinations. Change of heart puts Scottish grocers on the back foot. Central to this should be a plan to ease the regulatory burden, scrap the mooted public health surtax on grocers, and finally deliver on the pledge to restore business rates parity with England for medium-sized and larger commercial premises. The lack of rates parity costs Scotland's retailers $9 million a year, cash which isn't available for improvements to stores or customer service. Sensormatic Solutions retail consultant Sandy Sumpter pointed to April's wet weather dampening shoppers' appetite for spending, adding, with financial pressure starting to ease for some and indications of growing consumer confidence being reported, we will have to look forward to May to see if that filters through to improved in-store shopping. That was an article by Karen Peaty.
The Herald on the 3rd of May and the Voices section. Scotland's colleges must be saved before it's too late by Andrea Bradley. As the Herald clearly highlights its coverage this week, Scotland's further education sector is in crisis. Our colleges have constantly been underfunded over a long period of time, and the situation has grown increasingly worrying over the past few years. Despite the essential role that our colleges play in widening access to education to people of all backgrounds, particularly working class backgrounds, and all stages of life, right across the country, the level of funding support for the FE sector continues to fall. It shouldn't be this way. Our colleges offer a lifetime back into education for many people who have, for whatever reason, become disengaged with learning in other settings, be it young people who face challenges in the school environment, people looking to re-enter the workforce or upgrade their skills, or those later in life looking to keep mind and body active while learning new things. Scotland's further education colleges offer a huge range of provision to an extremely diverse range of students. My own father was one such student, an intelligent young person who lost his own father before turning 10 and who struggled with a compassionless 1960s school culture. He left at 16 with only 2 O-levels. After years working in a factory, encouraged by fellow trade unionists, he returned to further education 20 years after leaving secondary school, achieving a collection of top-grade hires that gave him a passport to higher education and a route towards higher earnings. He graduated 4 years later with a joint honours and degree in English and psychology and was soon employed as a college lecturer, giving back to the sector that had welcomed him as an adult learner and provided him the educational opportunities that he needed to set his life in a happier, more prosperous direction for himself and our family. There can be no doubt that my father's education journey and the critical component of FE College influenced my education journey and that of my sisters. As a family, we know the value of further education. Today, massive cuts to funding are leading to deep cuts to college courses and a loss of opportunity for students and prospective students across Scotland. People like my dad, whose early lives in education were not the most straightforward. The process of regionalisation through merging smaller colleges into huge super colleges has compounded the issue, with courses which used to be offered in various colleges now limited to just one campus of the merged college, limiting the ability of many learners to study for their chosen course at their local campus. Reductions in both lecturing staff and support staff have been used to cut costs, also reducing what should be an expansive offering to students with a wide range of interests and aspirations. This is a damaging result of years of underinvestment from the Scottish Government and ineffective leadership at college level from principals, some of whom seem more interested in courting private enterprise and wielding the weapon of the UK government's anti-trade union laws at EIS-FELA members who have been forced to take industrial action to fight for paying jobs, than responsibly tackling the challenges facing further education, a vital part of the public sector in Scotland. It is in this context that workers in Scotland's colleges, lecturers and support staff are engaged in a seemingly never-ending battle to protect the sector, fend off job cuts and ensure the delivery of a quality learning experience for students. For most of the last decade, disputes in the sector over proposed job cuts and inferior pay have become the norm, creating a challenging environment for staff and students alike. The Scottish Government has been found wanting. The Minister for Further Education, Graham Day, has refused to step in to facilitate a fair settlement to end the current long-running dispute. When college principals choose to inflame the situation by deeming lecturers withholding 100% of pay from staff for working to rule, the Minister shockingly defended this approach, despite it being contrary to the Scottish Government's very own Fair Work principles. Cabinet Secretary Jenny Gilruth has been missing in action too. Although holding the power to deliver the necessary funding to colleges to end the current dispute, she has been largely silent on the situation in colleges. Ms Gilruth did turn up at the recent conference at College Employers Scotland, where she spoke of the value of colleges to Scotland. What she didn't do was answer any questions from those in attendance, so we still do not know her views on how the current crisis in the college sector might be resolved. The Cabinet Secretary has been invited to speak at this year's EIS and AGM in early June, including a question and answer session with delegates. In the event that the current dispute is not resolved by that point in time, there will surely be many questions for Ms Gilruth to answer in the future of Scottish further education. It is abundantly clear that Scotland's colleges need more investment to allow them to thrive, and that will require significant cash injection from the Scottish Government. The EIS has called upon College Employers Scotland to join us in a joint appeal for additional funding for colleges. So far, this approach has been rebuffed. Still, the EIS remains open to working constructively with colleges to seek a better deal for Scottish further education, its students and staff. The investigation by the Herald this week has clearly demonstrated the depths of the challenges facing Scotland's colleges. It is only by the Scottish Government, Scottish colleges and staff workers working together that these challenges can be overcome. Our colleges are far too important to Scotland to be left to wither on the vine. It's time for our colleges, the staff who are working in them, and the students that they enable to make the next positive steps in their education journeys to be properly valued and supported. And that was by Andrea Bradley, and she's the General Secretary of the Educational Institute of Scotland and a former teacher. The Herald on the 3rd of May and the Arts and Ents section. Was Sangeeta Maisaka taken off the air over LBC Israeli argument by Jody Harrison? According to the late US Senator Hiram Johnson, or possibly ancient Greek playwright Aeschylus, the first casualty of war is truth. If that's the case, spare a thought for these journalists dedicated to seeking out the facts when conflict breaks out, either on the ground as the bullets fly out, or in the broadcasting rooms where broadsides of a more diplomatic nature come their way. Of course, the first and most important casualties of war are always, well, the actual casualties, most often innocent men, women and children caught in bewildering, horrific violence beyond their power to affect or alter. But war zones have a way of gobbling up reporters' and journalists' lives and careers with just as much impunity. And those who don't risk death can often simply disappear. The online world was grappling with just such a conundrum this week and responded with a petition to restore respected broadcaster Sangeeta Maisaka to her role at LBC Radio. For those out for the loop, the award-winning Miss Maisaka presented a hugely popular weekend phone-in show but went off the air after April 14. While no official reason had been given for her abrupt radio silence, her departure came after what has been described as either a fiery exchange or a simple run-of-the-mill, unremarkable interview with the Israeli government spokesman Avi Hyman. Hosted the day after an aerial attack which saw Israel bombarded with more than 300 Iranian drones and missiles, Maisaka pressed Hyman on what could have caused the outbreak of hostilities, the first direct violence between the two rival states. Maisaka asked whether the attack was a retaliatory strike after Israel had hit Iran's consulate compound in Damascus, Syria on April 1st. This act of war cost the lives of Brigadier General Mohammed Reza Zahedi, a senior commander at the Al-Quds force, and 12 other people, and poured petrol into a conflict which already reached boiling point some time ago. The international community reacted with horror, with diplomatic premises such as embassies supposedly sacrosanct from direct warfare. Iran also promised dire consequences. But Israel would not comment on the strike directly, even though the country's involvement was independently confirmed by the Pentagon the next day. Maisaka said that consulates and embassies are sovereign territories of the government's concern, and that what Israel did by taking that action against Iran was to escalate what was already an incredibly fragile situation. She added what Israel did was strike what is considered in diplomatic circles the sovereign territory of Iran, whether we like it or not. And there was undoubtedly going to be a blowback, she asked Hyman. So did Israel game out what was going to happen next? Shaking his head throughout the questioning, Hyman held the line, responding that the claim was an outrageous framing of the reality and saying the embassy was not a diplomatic mission, but an Al-Quds military base being used by the forces of the Iranian regime. He accused Maisaka of copying and pasting in a response from Iran, and that reporters worldwide were only repeating what the regime wanted them to do. Maisaka stressed that the claim the compound was an embassy had been reported across the globe, while Sir Richard Dalton, a former British diplomat in Iran who had been on the show earlier, had not disputed it being named so. But Hyman wasn't having it. So far, so robust, but also so much for Maisaka, who didn't return for her next weekend show nor any subsequent editions. Perhaps it's just a coincidence, but having carved out an impressive CV as a news presenter and journalist, Maisaka is someone a station would want among their stable of presenters. Having begun her decades-long time as a journalist at the BBC on their trainee reporter scheme, her career included a 2008 undercover investigation into child trafficking in Bulgaria, which was credited with helping influence the creation of UN GIFT, United Nations Global Initiative to Fight Human Trafficking. She won Current Affairs Presenter of the Year in the 2023 ACTA Awards and for her reporting on the Grenfell Tower Inquiry podcast. On 2019, she won Best Current Affairs category at the British Podcast Awards. Masaka is also a regular panellist on other high-profile shows, including Jeremy Vine on Channel 5 and Lorraine on ITV, and was this year named Radio Presenter of the Year in the prestigious Asian Media Awards. She is, in short, a star, a jewel in the crown of any broadcaster. Her show has also been good for LBC, pulling an average of 500,000 listeners for her afternoon editions on Saturday and Sunday, up 34.4% since she took over the slots in December 2022. And some mystery surrounds her disappearance from the airwaves, and fans demanded that she be reinstated. Almost 25,000 people signed a petition calling for LBC to bring her back, but this fell on deaf ears. Others actually called her show, now filled by another presenter, Ali Maharaj, a former Conservative Party parliamentary candidate, to ask where Masaka had gone. A couple even got through, to the embarrassment of its editors. For her part, Masaka has kept quiet, posting pictures of her garden on social media, hinting she was on gardening leave, and only commenting to say she missed her fans. This has led to a great deal of speculation. Her last big interview led to her being taken off the air, and dark murmurings of political interference. One fellow presenter at LBC, speaking to the New European website confidentially, said the newsroom was flabbergasted. There is shock about what happened, and the assumption it was the consequence of the Hyman interview, and if that is the case, then who is going to be next? Colleagues like James O'Brien have been much more critical of Israel over Gaza. Sanjita had built up a real rapport with her listeners and was one of the first few we have with an impeccable broadcasting pedigree after 20 years at the BBC. But now the news has become official, with this week's LBC confirming that Masaka had departed as part of a shake-up of the schedule. Parent company Global thanked the presenter for her fantastic contribution to the station and announced Vanessa Feltz amongst the new hosts being added to the weekend lineup. Feltz is not a direct replacement for Masaka because she is holding a program in a different time slot, but will take over from 4 May, fronting a new show between 1500 to 1800 on Saturdays. But the timing of one star rising and another setting has tongues wagging again. Feltz has stayed above the controversy, saying in a statement, after a long and passionate courtship, I've finally succumbed to the allure of LBC. Actually, I was powerless to resist. Global's dynamism is mesmerising, and it is the high-octane station from which to broadcast in this riveting election year. Can't wait to join the Global family and get cracking. Brace yourself for May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Ending with a Star Wars reference, a movie franchise which features an invisible force capable of moving things around behind the scenes, may not have been the wisest choice of words. And that was by Jodie Harrison.
From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 6th of May, from the Arts and Entertainment section. Review. Big Banana Feet was Billy Connolly at his funniest and fearless best. Written by Alison Rowett. Everybody told Billy Connolly he shouldn't go to Belfast. Everybody. It was 1975. Too dangerous, they said. Think of what your wife and 2 children at home in Scotland. But he sold records in Belfast and they kept inviting him. So what did Billy do? Billy went to Belfast. You can see what happened next in Big Banana Feet, the much talked about but rarely seen film of his trip to Dublin and Belfast. Newly restored by the BFI, the 77-minute documentary returns to the Glasgow Film Theatre this month after a sold-out world premiere at the city's film festival and ahead of its DVD/Blu-ray release. Director Murray Grigor and cinematographer David Peat wanted to make a tour film in the same spirit as D.A. Pennebaker's 1967 Dylan documentary, Don't Look Back. These were the days when comedy wasn't the new rock and roll, or whatever they called it, when comics became so big they played the Hydro in Wembley. This was the year that Connolly broke big, but for now he was still playing picture halls where wee women served him tea between gigs. The film opens with his arrival in Dublin. His entourage, such as it is, consists of his manager and a few others. He stands on the tarmac looking windswept and interesting, his hair bare bunch of locks blowing this way and that. There's a welcoming committee waiting inside the terminal. Like the Irish media, they have plenty of advice on what Connolly should and shouldn't say when he is in town. Everyone's a critic, just like back home. I've never been in a city where they warn you so much before you go on stage, he says. Even Edinburgh didn't do that. They've given him the best suite in the hotel. This is the one the stars stay in, says the manager. Burton and Taylor slept here. Rod Stewart and his girlfriend, though not all at the same time, presumably. All the famous Scottish people stay here. Later that evening, Connolly, dressed in his new banana boots by Edmund Smith and wearing an all-body leotard that advertises his masculinity, tells the Dublin audience about the uproar he's been causing at home. The Scottish press are up in arms because he talked about willies, and his routine on religion has seen him branded a blasphemer. Even talking about toilets has caused a stink. But everyone's laughing here. Everyone except the heckler who has just shouted IRA at Connolly. That's really brave, Connolly tells a man. I'd love to see you do that at Ibrox. The crowd roars its approval. If I've got a microphone and I'm sober, I should beat hecklers every time, he tells the reporter. Connolly has asked to meet the press after the gig. Says he's fed up explaining what he does. Best to let them see the show and talk after. None of them waits, but he's polite enough, answering the same questions about causing offence. Leave, get your money and go, is his advice. He resists journalistic attempts to label him as a comedian or a musician. Grieger and Pete see him as both, giving equal space to the songs in the patter, and of course the banjo. There's one moment when the camera simply stands and watches him play his beloved banjo. Those long piano player fingers are busy plucking and sliding. He's lost in the moment, the music. It's a heartbreaker of a scene, knowing as we do that Parkinson's will one day rob him of his ability to play, and much else besides. Back in 1975, he strolls his way through the songs that one day every Glaswegian of a certain age will be able to quote verbatim. For now, they're new and still funny. The patter is familiar too, the rubber men drunk in George Square, doing the one-legged walk as they try to eat a fish supper. The startling thing, however, is how politically edgy Connolly is. He talks about youngsters joining the army, lured by pictures of discos and computers in the window of the recruitment office. Then he segues into The Sergeant, Where's Mine, the song of a wounded soldier wondering what happened to that great life he was promised. All this Connolly stands on the edge of an ABC cinema in Belfast. He's fearless. Dylan, for all his radicalism and era-defining songs, would never have done this. Nor, mind you, would Dylan have cracked jokes about snotters and farting. Even after all these years, the scatological side of Billy's early economy still brings out the Miss Jean Brodie in me. The audience in Belfast love it. Decades later, it will emerge that dozens of weapons have been confiscated from the audience before the show started, and that the special branch officer assigned to protect Connolly was so drunk most of the time the comic feared he was going to be shot by accident. Big Banana Feet, like Don't Look Back Before It, captures perfectly an artist still trying to out his genius for size. He's a cocky so-and-so, a big beautiful man who's not going to be pushed around by anybody. Connolly is 33 years old, and everything is before him. The past will eventually rear its head and will be shocking and tragic, but not yet. Not yet. The only quiet moment in the film finds Connolly sitting in his dressing room, alone save for the film crew, just before the show starts. He takes a swig from a bottle, rolls a fag between his fingers, gets into the zone. He's a man off to his work, and he's deadly serious about this comedy business. An hour and a half on, he wraps up the Belfast show with the Wellies song, and the cheer from the crowd nearly takes the roof off. After several return trips to the stage for more curtain calls, he's back in the dressing room ready for that cuppa. His parting words to the ABC crowd were, "Thanks Belfast, it's been amazing." He promised to return. He was as good as his word, though in future he would play in the arenas too. The King of Comedy would be bigger and braver than all of them in time, for hadn't he gone to Belfast when everyone said he shouldn't? Big Banana Feet is screening in selected cinemas, including the GFT from May the 10th. And that article was written by Alison Rowett. From the National, Monday the 6th of May, from the business section, SNP new Scottish First Minister faces hard business audience. Article by E. McConnell, Group Business Editor. Scotland's business community was swift to say what it wanted to happen in the immediate wake of Humza Yousaf's announcement last Monday that he was resigning as First Minister. This should have surprised no one who's familiar with the intense scrutiny of the Scottish Government's policy making by business leaders, who have generally not been backwards about coming forwards when it has come to making their views known in recent years. These views have appeared to be dominated, certainly since the coronavirus pandemic and probably to a significant extent even before that, by disappointment around the business community's desires, often put forward through concerted lobbying, not being granted. One prime example of this is the annoyance in the hospitality, leisure and retail sectors that the Scottish Government has not granted them temporary business rates relief of up to 75% given to these industries south of the border by the Conservatives at Westminster. Of course, as with any administration, the Scottish Government has to balance the desires and requirements of business with the needs of others in society. The general view among Scotland's business community most definitely seems to be that it has not been prioritised significantly. That said, others might argue that some of the big policy decisions by the Scottish Government, such as the Scottish Child Payment to lower income families and a lesser tax burden for lower earners north of the border, have essentially benefited business by putting money in the pockets of people most likely to spend it. Some of the business lobbying at times leaves you with the impression that too little attention is focused on the need for people who have money to spend on the goods and services being offered by companies. It is as if this is taken for granted as the lobbying focuses on reducing the tax burden and cutting regulation. Of course, some in the business community recognise this need for customers to have money fine well, and it is always good to hear the importance of people in lower incomes having money to spend being acknowledged by those company chiefs with a firm grasp of what makes an economy tick. Much is uncertain, of course, about what happens in the wake of Mr Yousaf's resignation, although John Swinney is clearly in pole position to become the new First Minister. What is certain is that the next First Minister will face a huge challenge in winning over the business community, assuming there is a desire to do so, of course, and it seems highly likely there will be such a wish. The business community was vocal last Monday about a need to prioritise economic growth. It is not clear that the SNP has been doing this, although it patently faces an enormous challenge in convincing business that it has been pursuing this objective. Liz Cameron, Chief Executive of Scottish Chambers of Commerce, said last Monday, "As we look ahead, the business community will seek assurances from whomever the next First Minister is to prioritise economic growth. We need to be confident that the Scottish Government is pulling in the same direction to support business, grow the economy and create jobs." Catherine McWilliam, Nations Director of the Institute of Directors in Scotland, said, "Business confidence is low in Scotland, and another change in leadership at government level will do nothing to remedy that. Our members appreciate consistency and follow-through from leaders, and with the appointment of a new First Minister comes the possibility of more challenges at ministerial and civil servant level. The priority for the next First Minister must be to restore business confidence and to create a stable operating environment to enable economic growth." Tracy Black, CBI Devolved Nations Ambassador, said, "While Humza Yousaf leaves office with our best wishes, firms will want to see the vacuum filled quickly to prevent further instability impacting business confidence. Whoever comes in as First Minister must put addressing Scotland's faltering economy first. Without a competitive and resilient economy that prioritises investment, the ambition to deliver sustainable economic growth will fall short of the mark. It seems certain that business is going to remain a hard audience to please. The SNP, in its opposition of Brexit for example, has proven to be far more astute on the economy than the Conservative government has been for so many years. Having said that, some might not regard that as a high bar. The Scottish Government has made some very sensible points about the importance of frictionless trade, with the UK's largest trading partner and free movement of people between the UK and the European Economic Area. It has presided over strong foreign direct investment into Scotland, which surely indicates that much is being done right when it comes to education and skills, business and the economy. What is clear, however, is that business remains unconvinced. This is unlikely to be lost on the new First Minister. That said, perceptions, whether they are justified or not, can be very hard to shift. And that article was written by E. McConnell. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 6th of May, from the news section. Dundee Festival lineup includes V&A food market and free activities. By Sarah Campbell, food and drink writer. Dundee is set to be transformed into a food and drink haven this summer as the city hosts a first of its kind festival. Across the weekend of Saturday, July the 6th and Sunday, July the 7th, the Dundee Food and Drink Festival will offer a series of community-led workshops and events with residents and visitors encouraged to eat, drink, play and think as they discover the best of the local hospitality scene. Organised by Dundee City Council, activities will include a street food market at V&A Dundee, a local producer showcase with cooking demos at the Kalia Centre with Kitchen Press, Jim's Deli and Lindsay Kitchen, and a beer and toasty night from Law Brewing Co and Sartherm Food Co at the Discovery. Elsewhere, festival goers can look forward to a free workshop on Sunday afternoon at 4:30pm to 5:30pm at Broughty Cafe in Broughty Ferry with Jenny Ianetta of Bad Girl Bakery, who is originally from Kirkton, Dundee. The skilled Scottish baker owes venues in Muir Devore and Inverness previously caught the attention of celebrity chef Nigella Lawson, who has raved about her bakes and cookbook online. The family-friendly festival will also run free activities for children including Scrap Antics and Dundee Science Centre's playful educational sessions in Slessner Gardens. City Council Fair Work, Economic Growth and Infrastructure Convener, Councillor Stephen Rome said, "I'm very encouraged that so much progress has been made to deliver the first Dundee Food Festival. Excitement will no doubt continue to build in the lead up to July, and I hope that the range of attractions on offer will prove to be popular." Sustainability is said to be at the heart of the Dundee Food Festival, with all partners asked to pledge to the event's Sustainability Charter, which focuses on food waste, reduction of plastic use and using more local produce. Amongst them is award-winning chef Dean Baggs from Arbroath, who will host a talk and question and answer session on the issue at one of the city's newest cocktail bars, Temple Lane, while Dundee Cycle Hub will also provide activities to promote active travel at the waterfront. City Council Climate, Environment and Biodiversity Committee convener Heather Anderson added, "We are placing a strong emphasis on sustainability and the local reaction so far has been extremely heartening." The Dundee Food and Drink Festival is delivered in collaboration with local partners including the Council, Eaton Project, V&A Dundee, James Hutton Institute and Eat and Drink Dundee. For more information, check online. And that article was written by Sarah Campbell. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 6th of May, from the news section. San Francisco World Spirits Competition, Scottish Gin wins double gold. Article written by Sarah Campbell. A Scottish gin has been presented with a double gold status at the world's largest spirits competition. Launched in 2019, Ben Lomond Gin is distilled using a range of 11 different botanicals and takes inspiration from the striking natural surroundings of Loch Lomond in the Trossachs. At this year's San Francisco World Spirits Competition, SFWSC, the brand's original Scottish gin was recognised with the double accolade following 4 days of highly controlled blind testings. Distilled as a classic London dry, the gin is crafted with a blend of botanicals including locally foraged rowan berries, Scottish blackcurrants, as well as whole oranges and shizzen pepper. John Grieveson, Chief Marketing Officer of Ben Lomond and Gin Loch Lomond Group's owner, said, "We are immensely proud to receive recognition for our dedication to crafting versatile, premium gin that reflects the beauty and heritage of our Scottish home. It's a significant milestone for everyone at Ben Lomond Gin as our first international win, and has inspired us to continue nurturing Ben Lomond's adventurous spirit, which invites drinkers to venture through a world of flavours and experiment however and wherever they choose." Founded in 2000, the SFWSC is judged by renowned experts with decades of industry experience and, this year, attracted 5,500 entrants across more than 30 separate categories. The panel does not receive any information on producer or price point, ensuring each spirit is judged fairly. Gold medals are awarded to exceptional spirits that are near the pinnacle of achievement, with double gold presented to the entries that achieve a gold medal rating by all members of the judging panel. This year's competition results revealed that less than 1% of all awarded spirits were double gold London Dry gins. This milestone moment for the Scots Loch Lomond Group, which also owns and operates Loch Lomond Whiskies and Glen Scotia single malt Scotch whisky, comes following an exciting year of growth in 2023 when it was announced as the first official gin of the Open. The Ben Lomond brand has also this month announced a high-profile partnership with outdoor clothing band Frindra, launching an exclusive neck warmer that embodies the essence of Scottish adventure. Grieveson said, "We are thrilled to partner with Frindra in this collaboration. The partnership naturally transpired through a shared passion for connecting people with nature and embracing everyday adventure. It's truly been a collaborative project from the start, with Alex Feachin, founder of Frindra, taking part in our Adventures Serves campaign to the creation of 350 bespoke and beautifully handcrafted neck warmers, which is the perfect testament to our shared values." For more information on Ben Lomond Gin, visit their website www.benlomondgin.com. That's www.benlomondgin.com. And that article was written by Sarah Campbell.
The Herald on 7th of May, and the news section. Man arrested and charged over Paisley chainsaw disturbance by Jodie Harrison. A 30-year-old has been charged after a man was seen running with what appeared to be a chainsaw following a crash with 2 police officers injured. The disturbance happened following a collision involving a car and a stationary police vehicle on Glasgow Road in Paisley, Renfrewshire, at around 1 p.m. on Monday. Police Scotland said that the 2 officers were injured and were treated by paramedics. The force said that a 30-year-old man had been arrested and charged in connection with the incident. He is due to appear at Paisley Sheriff Court in due course. A report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal. That was by Jodie Harrison. The Herald on the 7th of May and the news section. NHS Dumfries and Galloway, data stolen in cyber attack now on dark web by Jodie Harrison. A large volume of data stolen during a cyber attack on a health board has been published by a ransomware group. Cyber criminals were able to access a significant amount of data, including patient and self-identifiable information, during the attack on NHS Dumfries and Galloway, which began at the end of February. Data relating to a small number of patients was released in March, and the hackers had threatened that more would follow. The health board said that data accessed by the cyber criminals has now been published onto the dark web. It has set up a helpline for anyone concerned about the attack and is working with police and other agencies as investigations continue. NHS Dumfries and Galloway Chief Executive Julie White said this is an utterly abhorrent criminal act by cyber criminals who have threatened to release more data. We should not be surprised at this outcome, as this is in line with the way these criminal groups operate. Work is beginning to take place with partner agencies to assess the data which has been published. This very much remains a live criminal matter, and we are continuing to work with the national agencies including Police Scotland, the National Cyber Security Centre and the Scottish Government. NHS Dumfries and Galloway is conscious that this may cause increased anxiety and concern for patients and staff, with a telephone helpline sharing the information hosted at our website available from tomorrow. Data accessed by the cyber criminals has now been published onto the dark web, which is not readily accessible to most people. Recognising that this is a live criminal matter, we continue to follow the very clear guidance being provided to us by national law enforcement agencies. A dedicated telephone helpline is open to the public from May 7, operating Monday to Friday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The Health Board urged everyone to be alert for any attempts to access their work and personal data or for approaches by anyone claiming to be in possession of either their personal data or NHS data, whether this approach comes by email, telephone, social media, or some other means. In all instances, people are advised to take down details about the approach and contact Police Scotland by phoning 101. Information is being regularly updated on the website www.nhsdg.co.uk/cyberattack. And that was by Jodie Harrison. Herald on the 7th of May and the news section. Police Scotland facing legal claim from officers over hearing loss by Jodie Harrison. Officers who suffered hearing damage during Bonfire Night Chaos are preparing to take legal action after Police Scotland failed to provide them with adequate ear protection, despite having the equipment. Police in Edinburgh were subjected to unprecedented levels of violence in November, with fireworks and petrol bombs launched at them at the capital's Niddry area. At least 8 were injured during the ugly scenes, but 1919 magazine today has revealed that 34 officers reported hearing issues after being targeted with fireworks. The Scottish Police Federation, SPF, is working with around 20 of those affected and has sought legal advice from a personal injury solicitor on their behalf. 1919 magazine reports that the force bought around a 10,000 set of sound suppressors designed to protect against noise-inducing hearing loss while still allowing officers to hear conversations and listen to police radios. However, these had not been tested in time, so were not issued to officers prior to them being deployed to Operation Moonbeam, Police Scotland's nationwide annual response in the lead up to Bonfire Night. The force confirmed that issues with hearing had been reported, but said it was unaware of formal legal proceedings at this stage. 1919 magazine covers justice and social affairs issues in Scotland and is available online. Gordon Forsyth, the SPF's Health and Safety Assistant to the General Secretary, said that the officers were exposed to 2 to 3 hours of constant barrage of fireworks. They're still experiencing problems. Some of them may recover, but it's likely for a few of them it will be a permanent problem, particularly in the tinnitus. There are some who have come back to light duties. They're probably the worst affected. For a few of them, it's quite significant. Meanwhile, new laws to ban fireworks in problem areas could be squandered for a second year running after it emerged. Only one council in Scotland has so far put firm plans in place. Fireworks Central Control Zones, FCZs, were legislated for last summer, but local authorities did not have time to implement the recommended 4-month consultation period in time for the Bonfire Night. Assistant Chief Constable Tim Mayers, Goal Commander for Operation Moonbeam, said, "The safety of our officers and staff is our number one priority, and we are committed to protecting our personnel from injury and harm while on duty." Prior to Operation Moonbeam 2023, Police Scotland purchased new noise-cancelling ear defenders, which are designed to protect our officers' hearing without compromising on their ability to hear routine sounds or conversations in a noisy environment. These have not been public order tested in time for use during the operation, but have since been provided to officers deployed for policing the Hogmanay Street Party, sporting events and other major operations. He added, in total 34 officers have dealt with the unprecedented levels of violence and disorder experienced during last year's Bonfire Night period, reported some issues with their hearing after being targeted by fireworks, and those officers continue to be supported. A full rollout of noise defenders is currently underway for all police officers. On the issue of firework control zones, a spokesperson for Glasgow City Council said firework control zones are part of a suite of measures to tackle firework issues, and full details are now available to view on our website. FCZs will be enforced by Police Scotland, and the Council will oversee the process of designing zones in Glasgow in partnership with police and Scottish Fire and Rescue. Scottish Government spokesperson added, "We are aware of a number of local authorities who are considering this. The Scottish Government has provided local authorities with the powers to designate fire work control zones within their boundaries, and we continue to provide funding for the local authorities who are considering this." And that was by Jodie Harrison. The Herald on 7th of May and the news section. Very unusual West End restaurant and bar on market by Brian Donnelly. Bar and restaurant in the West End of the Scottish capital has been brought to market. Cornerstone business agents said its clients had spent liberally on a recent renovation of the Melville Place property. Bar 13 premises are licensed 7 days from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. and there is huge potential for expansion. The business ceased trading last month. Upon entry, patrons are led to an open-plan bar, comfortably catering for over 80, Cornerstone said. There are many nooks and crannies within the property that give it a very unusual and interesting layout. The bar is to the centre of the premises with access to the galley kitchen behind. Our clients have spent liberally to create an inviting and well-presented modern bar restaurant that would suit a number of different styles and cuisines. The agent added, "Our clients have also invested heavily into unseen alterations in property, including wiring, electrics, property compliance, flooring, and overall condition of the property. Prospective buyers will be inheriting compliant and well-looked-after business. The property also benefits from substantial outside storage and cellarage. The beer cellar also houses the various latest Hannigan smart dispense system." Cornerstone also said the availability of this bar and restaurant premises on Melville Place provides an excellent opportunity for a motivated purchaser to acquire a high-profile bar and restaurant located on the heart of Edinburgh's West End. The property is available on a leasehold basis with £35,000 premium. This would be the assignation of the current 10-year lease signed in 2021. Current rent is £36,000. The lease is free of trade tie. And that was by Brian Donnelly. The Herald on the 7th of May and the news section. Woman dies following a two-vehicle A9 crash at Slodge by Jodie Harrison. A woman has died following a collision involving a car and a van. The crash happened on the A9 at Slod in the Highlands at around 9:30 p.m. on Monday, May 6. Police Scotland said the driver of the car, a 42-year-old woman, was pronounced dead at the scene. Police are appealing for information about the crash, which involved a white Kia Rio and a white Iveco Daily van. The driver and passenger of an Iveco were not injured. Sergeant David Miller from the Dingwall Road Policing Unit said, "At this time our thoughts are with the family and friends of the deceased as they come to terms with the tragic loss. We're appealing to anyone with information or motorists who may have dash cam footage from nearby on the A9 around the time of the crash to please come forward. If you believe you can assist our inquiries, please call 101 quoting incident 3682 of 6 May 2024. The road was closed for investigations following the crash and fully reopened at around 4:45 a.m. on Tuesday." That was by Jodie Harrison.
That concludes this week's edition of the Herald Scotland Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Tune Review and tell your friends about our service.